Hello, and welcome to another episode of Renew Review, the place where you can find out about all the latest innovations. And today we have with us Jeff Curran from Energy Live News. How are you doing today, Jeff?
Good morning, Emmanuel. I'm incredibly well, actually. Had a very nice weekend, took it very easy. So yeah, good, and looking forward to this.
Yeah, and it's good you come on that theme with being in the energy sector. Yeah, you're well rested, full of energy for today. Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't happen all the time.
So for the benefit of the listeners and the viewers who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about who Energy Live News are?
Yeah, absolutely. So Energy Live News has been going since 2010. It's my business along with my business partner, Sumit Bose, who's ex-BBC. I always have to say that, otherwise he gets all upset. Started in 2010, and basically we do what we say on the tin, which is energy news. So we're really covering off news that large energy users need to know about. So stuff around energy efficiency, energy prices and procurement, sustainability and green agenda, and policy and legislation. They're the four big topics that they want to know about. We've been highly successful. Energy Live News now has a sort of an average monthly unique visitors of just over 80,000. And then we launched back in January 2020, Future Net Zero. And that's very much, we want to look at how we can help business to be better so that we have a better planet. So that's gone really well. We're up to around about 25,000 unique visitors per month on Future Net Zero. And Energy Live News is very much a heritage brand, but Future Net Zero is the way forward. And that's something that we've been really pushing for the last almost 18 months now.
Yeah, okay. And having been in contact with you guys on that front, yeah, I can say, having looked through some of the historic articles, you do capture some of the need to know subjects, will we say? Yeah.
No, absolutely. So we're very much, as we said, we put in the live news on the basis that we wanted to be doing something every day. There is so much around energy, sustainability, renewables, etc., that it's very easy. I mean, we probably get in our email post box probably about 150 items a day, and we're on Energy Live News. We're running about between 10 and 15. Future Net Zero, we're probably running about 5 or 6. So there is plenty that we don't even pick up. We're really concentrating on the stuff that really matters. If I had the resources, we would do a lot more.
Yeah. Okay, and tell us a bit about your journey into the renewable industry.
Well, it really starts. Oh, this is a great story. You'll love this. Actually, it starts because of Arsenal Football Club. Okay, that's how we got into energy and how we got into renewable energy. So I was away on an Arsenal away game with friends, and one of those friends, a guy called Dan, and he worked for a company called Encore International, which ultimately ended up in a very large company called Schneider Electric. He was looking for help on how he could get his message across, so we helped that. And when I went to deliver the videos that we were doing for Encore, I went to a show called The Energy Event. And what I realized was that there was quite a big market there. And then we did the same the next year. The show had got bigger. And that's when I realized that myself and Sumit realized we needed to do something around news. And that's how we came up with Energy Live News. So you need to blame Arsenal if you don't like us. And if you love us, then you have to say, well done, Arsenal. In fact, you can't say well done, Arsenal, at the moment, because frankly, they're shockingly bad.
Yeah. And I suppose a lot of people are excited to bring back the energy to the stadiums. Yeah.
Oh God, that'd be brilliant. I mean, it was really nice to see Wembley Stadium with some crowd there for the final. And obviously, being a London club, was really pleased that Leicester won and not Chelsea. I'm really not helping myself here, am I? I've just basically got rid of a whole swathe of people. The Chelsea fans, the Tottenham fans, the West Ham fans, you name it.
And for anyone who is still listening or watching, how do you see the renewable energy landscape shaping up for the next sort of 5 to 10 years?
Well, that's a very big question. Okay, so the renewable industry is going to be one of growth, absolutely. So the UK government and other governments around the world are beginning to sign up for decarbonisation targets, for net zero targets. If you're a business in the UK, you need to make sure that you understand what is happening, because the government has signed us up to net zero targets, which means that you need to halve your emissions by 2030 and you need to be net zero by 2050. So there will be policy and legislation that's going to come and hit companies. Okay, so there are already companies that are within what is called SCCR, or Streamlined Energy and Carbon Reporting. At the moment, it's only for companies with 250 employees. That's going to come down maybe to 100, even 50. So you're going to need to be looking at your carbon impact. And in fact, banks and also your large customers are going to be looking at carbon impact. So whatever happens, you need to look at your carbon. So I'm talking about carbon, but actually, renewables is low carbon. So renewables is part of that story. But the overarching story is you really need to start looking at your carbon impact. And renewables is part of one of those solutions. So you'll notice that most energy suppliers talk about what they're doing around green energy and renewable energy and low carbon energy. That's going to continue. There will be a story around how green is your green energy. That's going to happen in the next few years. And that's going to be pretty interesting to see. But I think it just helps to push. So renewable industry, very much a growth area. And what do I think that means in terms of maybe things like energy prices? Difficult to say. You would hope that where renewables needed tariffs before subsidies, that's probably not the case. You'll see that solar and wind, etc., have come down in price, and that should remain the same. However, there's always an issue around government taxes and levies. So it'd be interesting to see where that ends up. But if you think that electric vehicles will be the thing that happens between now and 2035, 40, and you think of how much tax petrol and diesel get for the government, you can rest assured the government's not going to allow that to go away. So that's maybe something you're going to really need to look at is how the government replaces things like tax that it's receiving from petrol and diesel. I mean, one of the things will probably be a road usage tax, which I'm pretty much for, actually, because it's like anything. If you're using the roads a lot, you probably need to pay more. Whether we'll go down toll roads or whatever, not sure. There are much cleverer people that know. But in effect, our energy mix is becoming much more renewable in this country, and it will continue to do so. And that's very much part of where we're going.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that, because we've seen some of the energy providers already announce the launch of special rates for electric vehicle users, to charge at home.
No, absolutely. And I think what's interesting is if you look at if you want to use energy at night time, it's pretty cheap at the moment, okay? Because we don't have a lot of people wanting to use energy at that time. Once we start having millions, maybe tens of millions of electric vehicles, most people are going to charge at nighttime, and therefore you could see that it's actually going to sort of flip, and energy will become more expensive to use at nighttime, which is weird because you would never think that would be the case. But that's something that is one of those unintended consequences that could happen.
Yeah. And without getting too much into it, I guess, you can see part of the logic behind that, because of course, with a lot of the renewable energy generally being generated during the day with the likes of solar, it then puts a higher demand on storage capacity to be able to still reuse, renewable and sustainable energy at night.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, that's one of the critical things that, from a renewable perspective, you will have to look at is how well battery storage is going to work. So like you said, you're only going to pick up solar during the day, and if it's not being used, it will need to be collected in some sort of storage mechanism. So yeah, it's going to be, and as we know, in terms of wind could blow at night time, but also there are times when it won't blow at all. So particularly when it's really cold, which doesn't help. So we are going to have to look at having really effective battery storage solutions.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you guys then play a part in, I guess, the required shift for the UK to become more sustainable?
Well, I suppose for us, the new platform, Future Net Zero, its mission is really simple. It's inspire businesses to go net zero, commit businesses to their net zero targets, and educate businesses on their net zero pathway. So that platform is really a way of highlighting to companies out there, what is possible, what is coming, what can be done. So we feel that is a really valuable thing, just being able to communicate that. Plus, we also we wanted to do the walk ourselves. So we have been looking at how we go net zero, and the first thing we did was to look at our carbon footprint. So we've measured it, we now monitor it, and from doing that, we realised that being able to benchmark as a small company and to also get that carbon footprint accredited wasn't out there. So we've created the Future Net Zero Standard with Carbon Expert. You're well aware of it, Emmanuel, and that's something that we will be pushing out to SMEs out there, because I think the SME market has been left behind a little bit on net zero, and they're going to find that their large customers or their banks or the government are going to want to understand what they're doing from a carbon impact. And we've just been through a really tough time with the pandemic. So for SMEs, they need to be able to do it easily, and they need to be able to do it cost effectively. So what we've done with the Future Net Zero Standard is to ensure that it is very intuitive, it's very easy, but also it enables it to be accredited, and to do that at a really cost-effective price. So that's our way of helping to help, because once you have an idea of the shape and what the size of your carbon footprint, it enables you to then look at what you need to do from a planning perspective, and then to get on with it. And that for us means that we're helping companies out there to move on this way.
Yeah, yeah. And I totally agree. The biggest challenge for companies is not understanding how big the problem is before they know how they can improve or how much they can improve.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all well and good going, oh, I'm going to buy renewable energy, but that you don't know if that's really helped. The one thing I noticed the two things I noticed when we did our carbon footprint was really our carbon was in the offices and the home offices of the people that work with us, and in business travel. So I can really get to grips with the home offices and the office, because I can go and look for renewable energy tariffs that will help me to cut the carbon. In terms of the business travel, I can either look at my policy around how I get around the country, so I can start looking at, do I do more trains, buses, tubes, etc., or do I move my car to an electric vehicle? At the moment, from my perspective, an electric vehicle is I do a lot of miles, and I do quite some long journeys. So electric vehicle for me is still a bit of a, do I really want to do that? Has it got the range? Will I be stuck somewhere in the country because I've run out of range on the car? But the good thing is that we're going to net zero. There's a target at 2030 and a target at 2050. The key thing is understanding what you can do and planning for it. So I know that I can halve my emissions by working on what I'm doing in terms of the offices, and then I can do something around the cars and the transport then in the next phase. So the key thing is, by having that carbon footprint and understanding where we're at, it makes it a lot easier to then work that out. So, and that's the critical thing. And I think if you don't do that measurement, it doesn't matter what steps you put in place, you're doing it a little bit blind. I mean, you may be doing great things, but you're still not doing it blind. You still be doing it blind. And I think that's something you need to avoid. You need to have a much better idea of where you're at and where you're going, and hopefully it's going that way.
Yeah, yeah, very true. And to sum it all up, if you was to lose one of your senses, what would it be and why?
Well, I'm not sure how that sums up the conversation we've just had. And I must admit, this was the question I really didn't want to answer, because I can argue for every one of my senses. Okay, if I was a much younger man, the one I wouldn't want to lose is my sight. However, now that I am getting on a bit in years, weirdly, I think sight's the one that I would lose. And you go, well, that's weird, because sure, I love music. So for me, I need to be able to hear music. So that I couldn't lose. I love, God, I'm going to sound like a right out, probably. Love a glass of red wine, and I like very good food. And I find it weird if I couldn't have a hug with my children. So yeah, I think weirdly it would be sight now. Now, if you'd asked me 25 years ago, it wouldn't have been sight. And you'll probably ask now, which one would it be? I have no idea. So yeah, this is the toughest question of the lot. I had no idea. So it's sight, probably because then I don't have to see Sumit's ugly mug. Yeah, that there you go. There's your punchline. I don't have to see Sumit's ugly mug if I lose my sight.
Yeah, although you'd miss seeing all the changes that's going to happen to our planet.
Yeah, but that's the great thing about, if you lose one of your senses, other senses tend to fill in. So I would feel it, I would hear it, I'd be comfortable with that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us, Jeff. And yeah, great to give us an insight into what you're doing with Energy Live News and Future Net Zero. If any of the listeners or people watching want to get in contact with you, how can they do that?
Very easy. I'm still using my Energy Live News email. So it's Jeff, GEOFF, .curran, CURRAN, at energylivenews.com. They're more than welcome to email me. They can find me on LinkedIn as well. And I think I've got a Twitter account, but probably someone else looks after that for me. God, I sound like an idiot, don't I? But right, anyway. But look, I've really enjoyed this. It's been really good fun. So thank you, Emmanuel, for inviting me. And hopefully this has been interesting for the viewers.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who listened and watched to another episode of Renew Review. Until next time, goodbye.